What is a hard truth concerning our beloved senior citizens that perhaps we do not hear about so often, if at all? In order to try to grasp what that might be, we have to consider the difference between our experience, as it's called sometimes, our lived experience, and what that experience may look like to others. So, for example, let's say that I feel pain. That is part of my lived experience. However, I need not show that I feel pain. It might be difficult, right? I'm not showing it, but it's possible in principle. And the same with pleasure. I can feel very good, but I don't have to smile. And therefore, then, somebody will not know or may not know that I am feeling pain or that I am feeling pleasure because I am not showing it. I have a stomach ache, but nothing changes. I don't say anything. I'm not grimacing. I just feel it quietly, and that's it. Conversely, I can show the pain and pleasure that I feel. I stub my toe, and perhaps I say a bad word, or I yell out, and then other people can see and hear that. It can also then be filmed, for example. It can be photographed, right? Something like that. So there's that difference between that inner experience and what it can appear like to other people or to the camera or to other recording devices, right? If there are such other devices. And that is the difference that needs to be noted as it concerns the question of what is life like for senior citizens. If we, to paint a somewhat broader picture, if we consider life in a superficial way, and we're simply dealing in concepts, then we can consider, for example, old age in terms of such concepts as retirement, right? Or in terms of, just my life. What have I done? What are my regrets? Something like this. If we, however, narrow down the focus or limit ourselves to only considering what is actually experienced, things are a little bit different. So, for example, I cannot experience, quote unquote, my retirement in one go. I cannot experience, let's say I'm lucky enough to be retired for 20 years. I can't, at the end of it, I can't experience 20 years at once. I experience what is called a given moment. And that moment can be construed as it concerns, say, pain and pleasure felt, something that is seen, something that is heard, something that is smelt, and so forth, which is always different moment by moment, the given thought, the given memory. But it can also be construed as my general sense of, say, self-conscious existence. What is it like to be me now? When I was a little kid, I also had some existence, right? And it was different to be me then than it is to be me now. So that's that other question. It's not only what am I seeing now? Am I seeing three fingers or two? Am I seeing the sky, right, or the ground? It's not just about what I'm smelling now. It's about who I am now. Now, that who I amness, that isness of myself, what is it predicated on? Most substantially, what I'm feeling physically is predicated on, meaning is in light of, for example, the amount of heat in the environment, the amount of cold in the environment, what I've eaten recently. I might have a tummy ache, or I might feel nice and full and good. I might feel a cold coming on, right? I might feel itchy, all these different sensations, pressure in different parts of my body. But what about as it concerns myself? Who am I? What is that in light of? And here it can be offered that it is in light of my development. It is in light of my maturation, and most particularly in light of the extent to which I have moved toward becoming what I can be in a general human sense, in a general ethical sense, such as is concerned primarily with my overcoming, overstepping of selfishness, of self-centeredness, of self, idolatry, meaning self-worship, or the lack of all of that. Meaning, a desirable trajectory of human development involves going from being something akin to a little speck, a little dot, which is just consigned to the body, right? The heat and cold that we suppose the baby feels, to then a stage of egoism, for example, can be called, where it's about what I want, right, and what's coming next, and this and that, to eventually a broader and better sense of self, such that includes a wide array of experiences and knowledge, and other people can also live in my heart, as it said, right? But perhaps more than any of that, that includes a willing sacrifice of myself, considered in those lower terms. Meaning, to put it in plain terms, the overcoming of my vanity, of my pride, of my me, I, right? Where it's all about me, where it's all about what I need and what I want, and so forth. Now we have to briefly add that that is trickier than it may sometimes seem, because the vast majority of us would readily say, sure, but it doesn't apply to me. I'm a very nice person. It's never about me. I take care of other people, this and that. In the present sense, what is meant is a deeper self-forgetfulness, is a deeper type of getting oneself off of one's hands than merely modifying a self-concept, I the nice one, I the good Samaritan, or then merely external actions, right? Look, here's my hand, it's giving to the homeless person. It means a real change of heart. It means where my highest reality, where my main focal point is not simply, again, concerned with a given body or a given sense of pride or a given sense of vanity and specialness, but is aimed above me, where my heart is aimed above me, my love is aimed above me. It's not so easy. And yet, of course, that is the goal of normative human development. That is how we're supposed to be. It is not something that is special, or that is contingent on education or whatnot, or something like this. It is simply being a good person, except in a profound, real sense, which involves, to put it starkly and frankly, the death of who I initially take myself to be. And that is part of what makes it an ethical challenge. Right? It's not simply about calculating self-interest. If I calculate, in order for me to be happy, I need to be 15% less selfish, 20% more charitable. That's not going to work. What's demanded is the very kind of death, if we want to use a strong term, of that very me that would be making those calculations in the first place, that would be thinking about his or her own happiness in the first place. So it's not a snap of the fingers, but again, that is probably the proper goal of human development. So, back to the initial question, what is the truth about senior citizens that we may not often hear? That truth would be that in the vast majority of cases, we do not really truly develop as we perhaps otherwise could, and certainly not in the sense that was just previously described. Meaning, we do not overstep our selfishness. We do not overcome our pride. We do not throw away our vanity. We do not outgrow our egoism. And to destroy our egoism because of trauma or too much drugs or drinking also doesn't do the trick. Then I'm just left with nothing. Then I'm just left with a blank. So it's not so simple. Oh, I got rid of my ego a long time ago. No, we don't do any of that. We persist in our state of creaturehood, in our state of animality. We refuse to surrender our self-will and our claims and to proceed on that path of maturation. We say, no, no, thank you. I'm good. And what then is the outcome of such refusal? Basically, it's something that can be called a living death. Myself, right? Whether we would call it, or sentience, whatever we would say, it's confined simply to a body that is now dying, that the powers of which are decreasing. Previously, right, if I'm young and I'm strong and I'm fully self-centered, fine. Not fine, but okay, for the time being, There's multiple pathways of pleasure. I can feel good. I have a lot of things to look forward to. Right? I'm going to do this in a year, and in 5 years, and in 10 years, I might be very rich and living in somewhere and be very successful and have a lot of happiness and go on a lot of trips. When I reach old age, I may still kind of, first of all, we can live a long time, and even at 90, there could be possibly decades left. Fine, great, we hope so. But at the same time, inevitably, there's coming a point where we can no longer say that, and we know that, where we can no longer look forward to a long future unless we really, really deceive ourselves, which is not a good deal either, where we cannot say, oh, there's all these ways that I can feel good and feel pleasurable. No, my body is weakening. Its powers are sliding. The days ahead are numbered. And yet I am still confined to myself. To some extent, right, within normative human development, a person is able to say, take some pride and some pleasure in the accomplishments of any children that he or she may have, any grandchildren and so forth that he or she may have. A person can take some kind of interest in, say, his or her nation or other interest groups towards which there is affinity. Right? I care about my political party even after I'm gone, something like this. But still, the real goal, the real mark of human development has been missed. I'm still narrowed down to vulgar creaturehood. And it's just that I'm temporarily kind of titillating that creaturehood with such concerns. I've identified myself with the political party, and it brings me a couple moments of happiness thinking about how even after I'm gone, they're going to win, something like this. Other people reflect on me as I am, right? Look at my grandchildren because it's me, they're mine. I still, just to be perfectly frank, as nice as that is, as preferable as that is to its absence, right? Complete and total, say, narcissism or something, it's still not really the goal. The goal would be to have, again, overcome oneself, overstepped one's self-will, and to be free, and consequently to be nearing the end of one's days. And yet to have a feeling that, without kind of any extraordinary claims or hypotheses, simply to feel that that which will die, which is my body, right, which is my animality, I am not confined to it. I'm not making any kind of quote-unquote metaphysical claims, what's next, this and that. It's just how I feel. I'm not narrowed down to my psychophysiology, to my psychophysical, meaning psychological, physical, creaturely selfhood. And then it would be fine. It would be no problem. This is the way that things go. Bodies are born and then they age if they have that opportunity, and then they die. And it has been like that, it is like that, and it will be. But if I have not made any ethical progress in my life, then it certainly is a problem. It is a very big problem. So that then is the truth about senior citizens that we do not often hear about. Right? We may hear things about retirement and about how nice Granny and Grandpa are, this and that, and about what I'm going to do or whatever, what our relatives will do in their old age, play some checkers, check the news, this and that. What we don't so often hear about is the complete failure that most of us unfortunately suffer from concerning human development, which consigns us to, again, being but a body, which is set shortly to perish and be annihilated for eternity. That is a horrible fate. It must be admitted. It is a horrible experience to experience oneself as such. And of course, that experience can be denied. It can be not thought about. I can distract myself from it by playing some checkers or checking the news or something like this. But in the back of my mind, it's always there. So what is the lesson here that we can learn for ourselves? Well, the lesson depends somewhat perhaps on the opportunities that we suppose ourselves to possibly have. If I am young and if I'm strong, the best thing that I can do for myself and healthy, sufficiently healthy, is to set myself on a track of true maturation, of self-overcoming, of getting myself progressively off of my hands, without modifying my self-images, without spinning up stories that I am one with the stars or I'm very enlightened or something like this, but a real, genuine path of human development and human maturity. Serve others, do good for others. Try to think a little bit less about oneself. Go out on a limb and pursue one's repressed desires so far as they're not destructive, meaning I want to say, start my own business, do this and that, but not so that I can say, oh, look at me, I'm so successful and I'm very proud, but instead to kind of surrender that so that it's not there, right? So that I'm not constantly thinking, if only I did this, I would be this, I would be the greatest, if only. And then I sit on that pride. No, surrender that pride, work with it, go do things, humble myself, really develop, really mature, and hope that by the time it's time to go, I will have overcome myself. If it's too late for that, and I am indeed myself a senior citizen, the best thing that I can do, and perhaps the only thing I can do, is, or concerns, self-awareness and humility. Don't hide from these truths. Right? Don't run away. Don't distract myself. Become aware of them. Humble myself. See my failure for what it is. Don't say, but this, that, and the other. See it for what it is. Accept it. And then try to deepen that humility and that self-awareness as much as time allows. And that, again, is probably the only thing that I can do, the only legitimate thing that I can do, and the best thing that I can do. So, in short, we asked, what is a truth about seniors that we do not often hear about? The short answer would be that unless we have pursued the human life, the way of self-sacrifice and self-forgetfulness and goodness, which involves the death of ourself as we initially construe ourself, we are in a very tough spot. We are confined to a body of death. And we know that. And we can run from it and we can hide from it, but that will not serve us. Therefore, if we are young, become aware of that, change course, get on a good path. And if we're old, become aware of it anyways and deepen in that humility and knowledge, self-knowledge. Thank you for listening.